The beginning of silence. The hall was filled with bright lights and loud voices. Cameras flashed from every corner, and the crowd whispered in low tones as they waited for the next speaker. On the stage stood Ana de Armas, her voice clear, sharp, and commanding. She had been asked to share her thoughts about respect in the film industry, but her words soon carried a sting that no one expected. Her eyes turned toward Keanu Reeves, who sat calmly in the front row, his hands folded, his face steady and quiet. Anna's voice grew firmer, and there was a hint of frustration hidden behind her smile. She made a remark that sounded harmless, at first, but then turned into an insult directed at Keanu. She questioned his patience, his way of always being silent, his refusal to fight back in heated moments. Her tone was not cruel, but it was sharp enough to make the crowd uneasy. People shifted in their seats. Some lowered their eyes, while others looked at Keanu to see how he would respond. The hall grew quiet. The air felt heavy, as if everyone was waiting for a storm to break. Anna herself looked confident in that moment. She had not meant to hurt, but she wanted to challenge him. Yet the silence that followed her words was stronger than her voice. Keanu did not move quickly. He did not raise his voice or change his calm face. Instead, he rose slowly from his seat, every motion steady, as if he carried no weight of anger. His eyes did not hold pride or fury, but something gentler, something the audience could not understand at once. People leaned forward. The moment felt long, stretched, almost endless. Here was the chance for him to defend himself, to push back, with sharp words of his own, to remind everyone who he was and what he had endured. Many expected that he would choose strength in the form of resistance, but he did not. Instead, he walked to the stage with quiet steps. Each step seemed to lower the tension in the room, yet increased the suspense. He stood beside Anna, not across from her. His voice, when it came, was soft but clear enough for every ear in the hall to hear. "Patience," he said gently, "is not weakness. It is the choice to respect even when others forget to." The room froze. Every eye widened. Anna turned her head toward him, surprised, her confidence shaken in a way she had not expected. His words did not carry anger. They carried kindness, and that kindness cut deeper than any sharp reply ever could. The crowd began to murmur, but it was not with laughter or judgment. It was with awe. People felt their hearts stir. The insult had turned into a lesson, and the man who had been insulted was now the teacher. Anna tried to hold her steady smile, but inside, something shifted. Her thoughts tangled as she realized what had happened. She had expected resistance, but she had been met with humility. She had thrown fire, but water had answered her. It was not the victory she thought she had taken. It was the beginning of a change she did not see coming. The stage felt different now. The air was no longer heavy with tension, but filled with a strange calmness, almost like respect itself had taken form and was standing there with them. People clapped, but not in the loud way of celebration. It was a softer clap, thoughtful, filled with quiet admiration, the kind of clap that came not from excitement, but from being moved. Anna looked at Keanu and saw not just a man, but a reminder. A reminder that strength is not always about speaking louder, but about choosing silence when silence holds more power. Yet inside her, another storm began. She felt something she had not expected to feel, shame mixed with respect. The very man she had challenged had shown her a mirror. She wondered if she had been wrong to try and test him in front of so many eyes, but Keanu, standing steady beside her, gave no sign of judgment. His calm presence carried a message even louder than his words. This was only the beginning. The ripple of respect. The next morning, news spread everywhere. The video of that moment had already reached millions of people online. Headlines spoke not of the insult, but of how it was turned into respect by a single calm reply. People replayed the clip over and over, listening to Keanu's soft words, watching the look on Anna's face as her challenge dissolved into silence. Some praised him for his patience, calling him a man of rare humility. Others focused on Anna, questioning why she had spoken the way she did. Her name was everywhere, but not in the way she had hoped. She had wanted to appear strong, bold, unafraid to challenge someone so respected. Instead, she found herself painted as the one who tried to break a man only to be humbled by his kindness. Anna sat in her room, the curtains drawn against the light, her phone buzzing with endless notifications. She scrolled through messages, some supportive, many critical. Her chest tightened as she read comment after comment. People said she had been unfair, that she had lost respect, that Keanu had won. Not with anger, but with grace, she whispered to herself. Why did I do that? Why did I speak like that? Her heart was not full of hate. She admired Keanu in many ways, but in that moment on stage, she had felt the need to prove something, to show that she could stand against anyone. But instead of making her look strong, it left her feeling small. Yet she remembered the way Keanu had looked at her. Not with judgment, not with pride, but with calm. That calmness haunted her. It was not the silence of someone ignoring her. It was the silence of someone who understood more than she did. Later that evening, a private gathering was held for the speakers of the event. Many famous faces were present, the atmosphere warm and full of light conversation. Laughter echoed in the air, glasses clinked, but for Anna, the joy felt distant. She kept to the side, her eyes scanning the crowd until she saw him again. Keanu stood near the balcony, away from the noise, speaking quietly with a small group. He laughed softly at something one of them said, but even his laughter carried the same gentleness that defined him. Anna hesitated, her heart pounding, but something inside pushed her forward. She could not leave things as they were. She needed to face him, to say something, though she did not know what words would come. When she reached him, the group slowly drifted away, sensing that she wanted a private word. Keanu turned to her, his face calm, his eyes kind. She spoke quickly, afraid her voice might fail. I should not have said those things on stage. I wanted to show strength, but instead I only showed arrogance. I made you look small, but in truth, I only made myself small. Keanu looked at her for a moment, letting her words sink into the air before replying. Strength is not about making others small. Real strength is when you help someone stand taller. Her eyes burned, and she felt the weight of his words press into her heart. She had never thought of it that way. In her world, strength often meant proving yourself louder, faster, sharper. But here stood a man who believed strength meant lifting, not pushing down. You turned my insult into respect, she whispered, and that will stay with me forever. Keanu's lips curved into the faintest smile, but he said nothing more. Silence was his way of ending the moment, not with distance, but with peace. Yet even in that peace, Anna felt a new conflict rising within her. If respect and humility were truly stronger than pride, could she change herself? Could she face the world not with sharp words, but with kindness that demanded no return? The night moved on, but for her, it was not just another evening. It was the start of a lesson that would follow her wherever she went, and though she did not know it, this lesson was about to be tested in ways that neither she nor Keanu could imagine. The test of pride. The following week, Anna was invited to another high-profile event. It was a gathering of actors, directors, and producers where new projects were announced. The hall was larger this time, filled with journalists waiting for words that could shape tomorrow's headlines. Anna walked in with a smile, but inside, her heart was restless. She knew people still remembered the stage moment with Keanu. She could hear the whispers as she passed, soft voices mentioning her name, not with admiration but with doubt. She tried to hold her head high, but each whisper felt like a weight pressing down on her shoulders. When the event began, speeches flowed one after another. Laughter rose. Applause filled the air. But then, someone in the audience asked a direct question to Anna. Do you think humility can survive in this industry, or is it only weakness? The hall grew quiet. Everyone turned to look at her. The question was sharp, almost like a trap. She could feel the tension of dozens of eyes waiting for her reply. She thought of Keanu's words, of the silence that had turned her insult into respect. Her heart told her to answer with care, but her pride fought back. She took a breath and said, "Humility is important, but sometimes it is used by people who do not want to fight for themselves. I respect those who are kind, but in this world, if you stay too silent, others will walk over you." There was a ripple in the room. Some nodded, but many frowned. The air felt divided. And then, as if destiny had chosen this exact moment, Keanu Reeves walked onto the stage. He was scheduled to speak after her, but his arrival felt like a direct response to her words. He greeted the audience with a gentle nod and stood at the podium. "It is true," he began softly, "that silence can sometimes be mistaken for weakness. But silence, when chosen with purpose, can be the loudest voice in the room. Humility is not about letting others walk over you. It is about standing so firm in who you are that you do not need to crush anyone else to be seen." The room leaned into his words. His tone was not heavy, not accusing, but it carried a truth that cut through the air. Anna felt her throat tighten. Once again, her view had been placed against his, and once again, he had turned the moment into something deeper, but this time something different happened. A director sitting in the front row stood up and said, "I want to speak about something. I once saw Keanu walk away from a project where he could have made millions just because he felt another actor deserved the role more. That is not weakness. That is power of the rarest kind." Gasps filled the room. People turned their eyes to Keanu with even greater respect. The story spread like fire across the hall. Anna's heart pounded. The weight inside her grew heavier. After the session ended, Anna stayed seated while others left. She felt small, not because Keanu made her small, but because his actions had shown her what true strength looked like. It was not in words, not in defense, but in choices made when no one was watching. When the hall was nearly empty, Keanu walked by her side. He did not stop to lecture or remind her of her words. Instead, he placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and said only one sentence. "The world watches the loud, but it remembers the humble." Those words echoed in her chest long after he walked away. She realized then that she was standing on a crossroad. She could keep chasing strength in the way she had always known, or she could learn from the man who turned insults into lessons and silence into respect. But the choice would not be easy, and the true test was only beginning. The mirror inside days passed, but the echo of Keanu's words did not fade. Everywhere Anna went, she felt the invisible eyes of the world watching her, not just for her beauty or her talent, but for her choices. The memory of her challenge against Keanu followed her like a shadow. Late one evening, she sat alone by the window of her apartment, the city lights glowing outside like a restless ocean of stars. She replayed the moment in her mind. The hall, the insult, the silence, the answer. Each time she thought about it, her chest grew tighter. "Why do I keep feeling this?" she whispered to herself. It was not anger anymore. It was something different. Respect, shame, curiosity, and a strange hunger to understand the strength that Keanu carried so effortlessly. A soft knock broke her thoughts. It was her close friend, Clara, who had always stood by her side in the industry. Clara walked in and noticed the heaviness on Anna's face. "You are still thinking about him, aren't you?" Clara asked gently. Anna nodded. "He makes me feel like everything I believed about strength is wrong. I thought respect came when you spoke louder, when you stood taller, when you proved yourself against others. But he shows strength by doing nothing and still leaves everyone speechless. Clara sat beside her and said, "That is because his strength is not for show. It is not to win against others. It is to stay true to himself. That is why people remember him." Anna looked down, her hands trembling slightly. "But how do I change? How do I unlearn everything I thought made me strong?" Clara smiled softly. "You do not need to unlearn. You need to grow. And maybe he is the mirror showing you what you could be." The words settled inside Anna's heart. But before she could answer, her phone rang. It was an invitation to another event, a charity gala, one where both she and Keanu would appear. Her chest tightened. She knew this was not just another night. It would be another test. When the evening came, the hall was glowing with chandeliers and filled with people dressed in elegance. Speeches were made, funds were raised, and performances touched hearts. Anna stepped onto the stage to present a donation, her voice steady at first. But as she looked at the crowd, she saw him again. Keanu was seated calmly, watching her, not with judgment, not with expectation, but with the same steady kindness. Her voice trembled. The memory of her past words burned inside her. The crowd noticed her hesitation. Whispers began to rise. Then, in a sudden moment of clarity, she spoke from her heart. "I once thought that respect came from being louder than others, but I learned something recently. Respect does not come from stepping on others. It comes from lifting them." The room fell into silence. Eyes widened. Anna felt her heart pounding, but she continued, her words flowing like they had been waiting inside her all along. "I want to be honest. I made a mistake. I let my pride speak louder than my heart. But tonight, I want to stand for humility, for kindness, and for respect, because without them, our strength means nothing." The audience erupted in applause. Some stood on their feet. It was not the kind of applause she had known before. It was not for beauty or fame or glamour. It was for truth. Anna's eyes moved to Keanu. He was not clapping the loudest, but his soft nod was more powerful than all the noise in the room. In that single nod, she felt forgiven, understood, and seen, but deep down, she knew this was not the end. This was only the surface of a change that would take more than words to prove. For the first time, Anna wondered if she could truly walk the path that Keanu had shown. The weight of change. The days after the gala felt different for Anna. She noticed how people looked at her with new eyes. The applause she received that night was not for a performance, but for honesty. It shook her deeply. She had spent years crafting an image of strength built on charm, confidence, and pride. But one evening of truth felt more powerful than all of it combined. Yet the path of change was not smooth. Some people whispered that she was only trying to repair her reputation. Others said her words were practiced, not real. Anna could hear the doubts in the air, and every doubt struck her like a small wound. One night, she sat on her balcony, staring at the quiet city. She thought of Keanu again. His silence, his patience, his humility. It all seemed so natural for him. But for her, it felt like a mountain to climb. "How do you live like that?" she whispered into the night. "How do you stay kind when the world tests you at every step?" As if the universe had heard her, a message appeared on her phone. It was an invitation to join a group of volunteers Keanu often worked with, helping children in shelters. Her heart raced as she read it. It was not a stage, not a crowd, not a place for applause. Just quiet service. The next morning, she arrived at the shelter. The air smelled of fresh paint, and the walls were filled with children's drawings. Laughter echoed in the halls. She saw Keanu standing at the far end, helping a boy fix a broken toy. He looked up and smiled at her, the same calm smile that had once disarmed her pride. You came, he said simply. Yes, Anna replied softly, her voice carrying a mix of nerves and hope. He handed her a box of supplies. Then let's work. There was no long talk, no heavy words. Together they painted walls, carried boxes, and played with children. Hours passed like minutes. For the first time in a long time, Anna felt a joy that was not tied to her fame, her career, or her image. It was pure, simple, and real. At one point, a little girl tugged at Anna's hand and asked, "Are you famous?" Anna laughed and nodded. "Some people say I am." The girl looked at her with wide, innocent eyes and said, "But today, you are just kind." The words pierced straight into her heart. Tears filled her eyes, and she quickly bent down to hug the child. She realized that respect was not about what the world thought of her name. It was about what she gave when no one was watching. Later, as the day ended, she and Keanu sat outside the shelter, the evening sun casting a golden glow. The children's laughter still echoed faintly inside. Anna turned to him and whispered, "I think I finally understand. Respect is not given by others. It is earned by how you treat them." Keanu looked at her, his eyes gentle. "And the strongest respect is the one that asks for nothing in return." Anna nodded, her heart steady for the first time in weeks. But as calm as the moment was, she knew that life outside the shelter was waiting. The world of cameras, critics, and fame would not be as gentle. Still, she felt ready to face it, even if it meant falling again. But neither of them knew that soon a new challenge would arrive, one that would test not just Anna's new path, but also Keanu's patience in ways even he had never faced before. The storm rises, the peace of the shelter faded quickly when Anna returned to the world of flashing cameras and endless headlines. Her small acts of kindness were noticed by some, but others questioned her every step. Articles appeared in magazines asking if her transformation was real or just another performance. Some praised her, others mocked her. One evening, during a live interview, a reporter decided to push her into a corner. The bright lights of the studio shone hot, and the cameras captured every twitch of her face. The reporter leaned forward and asked sharply, "Anna, many say your words about respect were just to fix your image after that incident with Keanu Reeves. Do you agree that humility is only your way of protecting yourself?" The question cut through her like a blade. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing on her chest. If she answered wrong, the world would tear her down again. Her pride stirred inside her, urging her to strike back, to defend herself loudly. But then she remembered the shelter, the children, the calmness of Keanu's voice. She took a deep breath. "I cannot control what people think," she said softly, "but I can control what I choose to give. I used to think strength meant being louder than others. Now I believe strength means being kind even when people doubt you. So yes, maybe some think it is an image, but if kindness is an image, then I will choose it every time." For a moment, silence filled the studio. The audience watching live screens at home felt the stillness. Then, a slow clap began from one corner of the room, spreading until the entire audience joined. It was not the wild applause of excitement, it was the thoughtful applause of respect. But while many admired her response, not everyone was ready to forgive. A harsh critic posted online that Anna's words meant nothing compared to actions. He insulted her, calling her weak, saying she was hiding behind Keanu's shadow. The post spread fast, gathering thousands of comments. The next day, Anna appeared at another event, and once again the critic was present in the audience. He raised his voice during the open questions and shouted, "You hide behind humility because you are afraid to face the truth. You have no strength of your own." The crowd gasped. All eyes turned to Anna. She froze, her heart racing. Her old self wanted to fight back with sharp words, to cut him down and prove him wrong. But then, she noticed Keanu sitting quietly at the edge of the room. He had not been on stage, but he had come to support. His calm eyes met hers, reminding her of the lesson he had lived, not just spoken. Anna's lips trembled, but then she smiled. She stood taller, not with pride, but with peace. "Maybe you are right," she said gently. "Maybe I am still learning. But if learning to be kind makes me weak, then I will accept that weakness. Because the world does not need more insults, it needs more respect." The hall erupted in applause. The critic was left speechless, his anger drowned by the roar of voices honoring her courage. Keanu stepped forward then, his presence quiet yet powerful. He placed a hand on her shoulder and spoke to the audience. "Respect is not about being perfect. It is about choosing kindness again and again, even when it is difficult. Tonight, she has chosen it, and that is strength." Tears welled in Anna's eyes. This time she did not feel small. She felt free. But just as peace began to settle, the storm grew louder outside. News channels twisted the event. Headlines turned. The critics' attack into fire, and the world prepared to watch if Anna could truly stand through the flames. The storm was not finished. The hardest test was still to come. The final lesson. The storm outside grew heavier each day. The media swirled with stories. Critics fired their words like arrows, and every choice Anna made was magnified 1,000 times. She woke each morning, with her heart tight, wondering what headline would greet her that day. But deep inside, something had changed. Her old self would have crumbled under the weight of shame or fought back with fire. Now, she remembered Keanu's steady voice, the shelter's laughter, and the children's words that called her kind. These memories were her shield. Yet the hardest moment came when she was invited to speak at one of the largest award ceremonies of the year. The entire industry would be watching, millions at home, too. It was the same stage where Keanu would also appear. Anna knew this was not just another speech. This was the moment that would decide if her transformation was real or only a passing act. The night arrived. The hall glowed with golden lights, filled with faces of power and fame. Cameras lined every corner, hungry to capture either her rise or her fall. When her name was called, Anna stepped onto the stage. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the microphone. The silence in the hall was deep, almost heavy. She looked out into the sea of eyes, then found him, Keanu, sitting calmly, his gaze steady on her. She took a breath. "A while ago, I made a mistake. I spoke with pride and insulted someone who never deserved it. I thought silence was weakness, but I was wrong. Silence, when it carries respect, is stronger than any sharp word." The audience leaned in closer. "I cannot erase the past," she continued, her voice steady now, "but I can choose who I want to be from this day forward. I want to be someone who lifts others, not someone who makes them small. I want to stand for humility, kindness, and respect, even when the world does not believe me. Because respect is not about what people give you, it is about what you choose to give." Her words hung in the air, soft yet powerful. And then, to everyone's surprise, she turned to Keanu and said, "Thank you for teaching me, not with anger, but with patience. You showed me that the strongest voice is the one that speaks with love." The hall erupted. Applause filled every corner, louder than any she had ever heard before. But this time, she did not hear it as fame. She heard it as truth. Keanu rose slowly from his seat. The crowd parted their gaze to him. He walked to the stage and stood beside her. For a moment, they said nothing. Then, with his calm voice, he spoke. "She does not owe me thanks. Respect is not about one person teaching another. It is about all of us choosing, again and again, to be better. Tonight, she has chosen it, and that choice belongs to her alone. Tears welled in Anna's eyes, and the audience felt their hearts stirred. In that moment, the world saw something rare. Two people not fighting for pride or fame, but standing together in humility. It was no longer about an insult turned into respect. It was about respect becoming a bridge, one that others could walk across too. The applause thundered on. But Keanu and Anna shared only a quiet glance, a nod that said more than any words. Could carry, the storm outside slowly faded because storms cannot last forever when met with truth. And when the lights of that night dimmed, a new chapter began. Not only for Anna, but for everyone who had witnessed the power of respect, humility, resilience, and kindness.